deliberations. And first up is on public delegations today is we have Aaron Freeman, Principal of Pivot Strategic Consulting, on behalf of Giovanni and Angelucci, Canada Clean Fuels, regards to the use of biodiesel blend in cities' diesel fuel contracts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, sort of timed this out. I understand I have 5 minutes. I'm wondering if I can have sort of a 90-second leeway on that.
If it's the will of council.
Thank you. I'll try and keep it to 5 nonetheless. But I appreciate the opportunity of being able to delegate here. Thank you very much. My name is Aaron Freeman, and I am the principal at Pivot Strategic Consulting. My company works with a range of companies and associations in the environmental technology field. One such company is Canada Clean Fuels, which I have the pleasure of representing here today. Canada Clean Fuels is a full-service trucking fuel distribution company based in Toronto and Canada's leading distributor of biodiesel. Biodiesel is a fuel processed from biological matter and blended with diesel for use in a diesel engine. It achieves a 92% greenhouse gas reduction over diesel, with significant reductions in other air pollutants, particularly the precursors for smog. Biodiesel is widely used in municipal and corporate fleets. Examples of local municipalities that use the fuel include York Region, Guelph, Kingston, Waterloo, and Ottawa, and well-known corporate fleets that include Labatt's, Loblaws, and Robert Transport. The state of Minnesota mandates the use of B20, a B20 blend, so 20% biodiesel mixed with 80% diesel, and they require that for all diesel that's sold in the state. And that's been a steadily increasing mandate in that state since 2005. I've tabled with my remarks a study by Transport Canada, which notes that biodiesel use in municipal fleets in Canada goes back to 2002. With Brampton actually being the first Canadian municipality to use it in their fleet. Biodiesel-fueled vehicles deliver similar torque, horsepower, and kilometers per liter as conventionally powered diesel vehicles. I've also included a list of testimonials, including from Brampton, on the high rates of success that municipal and corporate fleets have had using biodiesel. Our proposal for you to consider is to switch Brampton's fleet back to biodiesel. In 2017, Brampton decided to move away from procuring diesel fuel directly from suppliers, opting instead to pool its diesel purchase with Metrolinx. However, as an indirect consequence of this switch, this ended the city's record of leadership in using biodiesel to reduce air pollution produced by city buses and trucks, as Metrolinx does not use biodiesel. This move also shifted the city away from the goals of Brampton's own environmental master plan, Brampton Grow Green, which boasted about the city's leadership on biodiesel use and recommends completing the city's green fleet plan, i.e. continue right-sizing vehicles and greening the municipal fleet with biodiesel and hybrid vehicles. The Brampton 2040 Vision Plan, released last year, calls for the city to lead in environmental sustainability and carbon neutrality through green infrastructure and operations. Having the city do its own fuel procurement and specifying a B20 blend biodiesel for its fleets would be a highly cost-effective step toward achieving the city's objectives. I would point out that by giving up on a competitive bid process and pooling with a Metrolinx contract that had a locked-in price that was more than 2 years old, the city lost out on changes in the diesel market that would have resulted in a much lower price for diesel. Returning to a Brampton-run fuel contract would involve an increase in the workload of city staff, as they would have to run a standard procurement process instead of having Metrolinx do it. However, with current market conditions offering biodiesel prices comparable to regular diesel, Brampton residents can reap the benefits of cleaner air and significant pollution reductions at little or no cost and potentially with savings. The city is budgeted for an increase in diesel fuel costs to account for the relatively high volatility of diesel fuel prices. Because biodiesel relies on a wide range of feedstocks, the price is more stable, which reduces volatility and can reduce what the city will pay for a fixed price contract. Consider, too, that the federal carbon tax will raise the cost of diesel, while biodiesel is exempt from the tax. Unlike imported fossil fuels, a portion of biodiesel also uses feedstock from within the region, including agricultural crops and yellow grease from food establishments. Among cleaner fuel alternatives, biodiesel also offers a unique set of advantages, including immediate air pollution reductions without any need for infrastructure investments either at the fueling facility or in the vehicle. Our region provides a competitive fuel market with many well-established biodiesel fuel suppliers. In a recent RFP to supply biodiesel to the City of Waterloo, for example, 8 qualified bidders competed for the contract. Compare this with 2 competitors in the last Toronto RFP for regular diesel. Before concluding, I'd like to go over how 2 issues around biodiesel are dealt with in jurisdictions that use this fuel. Number 1, biodiesel has a lower gel point that affects performance in extremely cold climates, in extremely cold weather. This is easily dealt with by using a lower blend during colder months, as is done in biodiesel jurisdictions with colder winters than ours, such as the state of Minnesota. The second issue is with regard to filter changes. Put simply, biodiesel cleans the engine as it's used. It removes dirt and dust that is accumulated from the diesel that was used in the vehicle prior to the vehicle prior to biodiesel being introduced into the vehicle. As a result, at least initially, in older vehicles, the filters need to be changed a bit more often. Suppliers ensure that their customers are aware of this and change their protocols with regard to filter changes at nominal cost to the city. In conclusion, biodiesel offers the city a cost-effective way to achieve lower air pollution emissions on a very cost-effective basis. Thank you very much for the opportunity of presenting before you today. Happy to, if you have any questions.
We have a few questions. Councillor Vicente.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Freeman, for your presentation. I'm not sure, are we permitted to ask questions of staff with related to this issue, this subject? Okay. So to staff, according to the presentation, the City of Brampton was using biofuels before. Now we're not doing that. Was there a reason that we can be made aware of as to why that decision was made in the past?
Through the chair, maybe I can provide some context that might answer a few questions. Brampton Transit, for example, has used biodiesel in the past, and the blend rate was different depending on the season. There was some experiences of, as the delegate mentioned, of clogging during winter months and gelling, which were addressed through a maintenance department. And what we've done consciously at that point was reduce until we understand the full-term, long-term effects. I know that the manufacturers of Cummins, for example, will allow for their warranty up to a 20% biodiesel mix without compromising their warranties. We do use biodiesel today. The Ontario regulation under the greener diesel regulation requires by 2017 a minimum of 4%. So we are using 4% today. I just want to be very clear on that. What we did do is the City of Toronto and TTC have undertaken a study with the University of Toronto to understand what the full effects are of the higher percentages of biodiesel. We've been working with TTC to understand what the outcome of that is. We are fully prepared to increase our biodiesel usage once we understand what the impacts are on our fleet. At the same time, we do have a contract through Metrolinx, and that was done because of volume discounts. Metrolinx is using in excess of 60 million liters. Brampton is about 15 million. Mississauga is about 20 million. So when you add them all together, you get price points. In fact, there are contracts coming up in a year, and we will be working with our procurement department to go out for procurement, whether it's a joint procurement or Brampton alone. We're going to be discussing those matters at that time. But again, volume discounts are something that is advantageous to us because we pay rack price, which is fluctuating. There is fixed prices in terms of other costs of profits and everything, but we do pay a rack price. So I just want to make sure that when we do go out, and we definitely welcome all bidders because, you know, in my view, there's not enough out there to help a competitive price. But if you have the large volumes, if we were able to incorporate TTC Metrolinx and others and get to a 200, 300 liter, we might tweak the interest of New York, which has multiple suppliers that might tweak the interest for even better pricing. So we're going to explore all those opportunities, and we're going to work with our purchasing department to see how we can, in effect, implement the hire, but definitely we'll be looking at all that.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Would the city be able to look at whether or not there would ever be supply issues involved with choosing this as a source? Are we locked into the Metrolinx arrangement, or do we have the option of seeking fuel from other sources at our discretion?
So through the chair, currently right now, we have a contract, piggyback onto the Metrolinx contract, and that locks us in for a period of time. And our last renewal expires, I believe, not sure the exact date, but in April of next year. So we'll definitely be going out to procurement well before that to establish a new contract in place.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, next up we have Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Chair, and thank you very much for your presentation and some clarification as well. I appreciate this delegation on the budget because in our budget, and I brought this forward to David Sutton too, the municipal price index for fuel is 4.2%, which is in fact the highest MPI on this chart, 14.2%. And so I now have clarification that some of it is fossil fuel-based diesel, some of it is a smaller percentage biodiesel, but certainly that's a huge, municipal price index that we have to deal with year after year. And with all the pressures with climate change, obviously biodiesel is the cleaner fuel to go with. So when we go into those new contract renewals with Metrolinx, it would be great to vocalize those 2 points. So thank you very much.
Okay, Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the delegation. I guess I'll step in here to let maybe some of the new members know that I was the first one that brought this to the attention of not only staff, but in work that I had done with staff at the City of Brampton, City of Mississauga, and the Region of Peel, found a huge savings in what we pay for our fuel. Coming from the fuel world, it's complicated, but almost not that complicated. As Alex had mentioned, yes, we're in a contract. We're in a contract for the certain amount of liters, and those liters altogether gives us the discount on that rack plus or minus rate that we pay. That being said, the City of Brampton worked with Canada Clean Fuels. Canada Clean Fuels is probably the leader in biodiesel. They're probably the first ones that ever really came out with it as strong as they did, and they're definitely an excellent company and a proven company. But we did have some of the issues, like Alex was saying, at the at the level of the mechanics, saying that we weren't getting the efficiencies that they fully thought that we should be getting, and it was difficult with the changes in the gumming and the how frequently the changes needed to be. So it wasn't just a price per liter savings, it ended up being a little bit of a cost savings in switching over. That being said, biodiesel is in diesel fuel today. Ethanol is in gas today. So the government has made that standard, and it is definitely up to local municipalities to improve or extend that B component. I think it's a good thing that the contract is coming up and we can relook at that. I know there are other companies out there now that make it a little bit more competitive when it comes to biofuels, and I'm sure Canada Clean Fuels is definitely among those companies that price will be competitive. So I look forward in relooking at our contract and seeing if we can continue reestablish the higher component of bio in our, specifically in our diesel fuel. So, you know, that being said, I guess, to the delegate, when did, have you made delegations to other municipalities? Are you pushing more so a company specifically, or are you pushing the fact that you know, the B component is the, you know, lower carbon, better environment standard for fuels?
Sorry, I missed the last part of the question.
Are you pushing the environmental aspect of biodiesel?
Well, we think biodiesel offers a pretty unique space in the fuel sector, actually, where we can meet those environmental objectives at a very cost-effective price. And it's particularly true, I mean, we pursue both private market and municipal markets. We're opportunistic. We'll go wherever the opportunities are. However, what I would say is there's a unique benefit to fleets that opt for a fixed price contract, and I'll illustrate by example. So the Metrolinx contract would have been negotiated, I believe, 4 years ago, and it was put in place 3 years ago, if I'm correct.
More or less.
About that right? So I can quote you some experts, and some of those are in the material in the appendix to my testimony. But essentially, you can't compare you have to compare apples to apples. So typically, you're paying a rack price, and usually with a discount, but you have to account for the volatility in the fuel price. And Councillor Santos referred to the increase, and part of that increase is to account for that volatility. That's something that you have to deal with diesel, because there's one feedstock, and it's a highly volatile feedstock. With biodiesel, there's probably 6 or 7 major feedstocks that we go through. So some of those are agricultural crops. So soy, for example, is a big one. Some of those are yellow grease. So restaurants used to pay to have their grease removed. They now actually earn income. We pay them, and we pick it up, and we use it as fuel. We convert it into fuel, and from an environmental standpoint, that feedstock is actually a net negative emitter. We are actually contributing as opposed to taking away from the environment by using that as the feedstock. Because there are so many feedstocks, there is much more stability in the price for biodiesel. The commodity price is actually paired more to heating fuel than it is to diesel or some other transportation fuel. So you've got much more price stability with biodiesel, and with changes in the market, including the carbon price, but that actually has only a fairly small impact, but a range of other factors. Today, the price for biodiesel is quite comparable to diesel. I did want to address some of the performance issues that you mentioned. These did occur a decade and more ago. For the most part, in the jurisdictions that we operate in, and that's across North America, we don't see those as issues. And when we talk to fleet managers in places like Minnesota, and you can see in the materials, we quote the annual report on this program in Minnesota. Those issues don't exist. They're simply accounted for, the filter changes being the big one. You change your filters more often, at least in the older vehicles. So there's academic literature to demonstrate that as well, that I can point you to as well. So in terms of that as an issue, those were emerging issues sort of 10 and 20 years ago. There are very few jurisdictions that have those problems documented today.
And I recognize that, and when I was in the fuel company, we flipped a coin on a daily basis whether we were going to get into the biofuel market altogether, and it was a different time back then. But those were some of the kind of the misnomers, and it's you can take that with a grain of salt. It goes across the board. I'm glad to hear you say that it's a lot more. There's a lot more companies out there. There's a lot more opportunity out there, and that's specifically for the possibility of a cheaper price. That being said, it's also a different world, some 10 years ago, it was one rack price. It's no longer one rack price anymore. They all followed Imperial Oil's rack price. Imperial Oil decided to stop publishing. They all started to have to go a little bit different way, following along and stuff. So that being said, I look forward to the new procurement that coming out, and I look forward to hopefully working with a company like Canada Clean Fuels to increase our bio component in our diesel.
Thank you. And you probably know from your experience in the business that the discount off the racks 2 and 3 and 4 years ago were far less than the discounts that they get today. And that's one of the problems with locking in.
Unless you're with Petro.
Unless you're?
Unless you're with Petro-Canada. Thank you.
Cheers.
Councillor Willens.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron, for coming in. I guess it's not really, thank you for coming in and bringing the fact about biodiesel, because I'm always one to support like a circular economy, and biodiesel certainly does that with the animal waste and whatnot. But I guess as a community, it's important that we move forward in looking at all other aspects of means of energy, especially now this isn't supporting biodiesel by any means, but certainly the circular economy. We've got a company right here in Brampton that's looking at producing hydrogen cells for fleet services, for buses, and for possibly even our vehicles. So maybe working with other municipalities or working with Crew Trex to see if there's some way we can get something where it gets it closer to a cleaner economy. But certainly thank you for coming in. It's well appreciated, and it's important that we relook at other fuel sources and look at new sources as well. So thank you again for coming in.
Thank you. If I may, Chair, what I would point out is that there are a range of cleaner fuels out there. Hydrogen's certainly one of them, electric vehicles. If this were the energy sector, it would be the energy sector 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we didn't really know what the grid of the future was going to look like. And passenger vehicles would be another system like that, where we have a very clear picture today of what the future of passenger vehicles looks like, right? Smart technology, self-driving vehicles, electric vehicles. We can paint a picture of that. With freight fuel and transit fleets, we don't really know what the breakthrough technology is, and it might be hydrogen, it might be electric vehicles, it might be biofuels. The benefit, particularly at this stage, with that uncertainty in the future, the benefits of biodiesel are there's no infrastructure investment. So you're not creating a path dependency on a particular technology. If another technology overtakes biofuels, there's an off-ramp. It's the same nozzle that's going in the same tank. You can put it in, you can take it out. And while you're converting that fleet to whatever it is the new technology is, you're still going to be using tens of millions of liters of diesel every single year. That diesel should be the cleanest fuel that is cost effective for the city to procure. And right now, we feel that that fuel is biodiesel. We supply regular diesel. Canada Clean Fuels supplies the full suite of fuels for freight, and we're happy to do so. We think there's a unique value proposition around biodiesel for that reason. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Freeman, for your presentation. So we have a motion to receive the delegation. Councilor Palashi, seconded by Councilor Vicente. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, now we have local board and other presentations for the budget. The first up was we have the downtown Brampton BIA, Susie Godfrey.
And that little clicker, is that the folder? Okay, thanks. Okay. 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 Okay, good afternoon, Mayor Brown and members of council. My name is Susie Godfrey, and I'm the Executive Director for the Downtown Brampton Business Improvement Area, and I'm here today to present the Downtown Brampton BI 2019 budget. Okay, and so the second slide here just goes through the 2019 budget process and timelines, and in essence, the Downtown Brampton BIA follows the city budget timelines. And so what we do every year is we open up budget workshops for the general membership at large in the summertime every Wednesday in July and August, and we give them the opportunity to come and talk to us at the staff level to discuss initiatives they'd like to see us pursue for future planning. And then we take that back to our working teams and eventually back to the board. So back in October, we approved the 2019 budget, and then we did bring the budget back to the board on February the 12th, just in light of the changes with the planning for Downtown Reimagined. And there were no planning changes there for the budget, so here I am today. Okay. Oops. Okay, so what I wanted to do was highlight the vision and mission of the Downtown Brampton BIA. So Downtown Brampton is a respected and welcoming destination dedicated to bringing people together for quality shopping, services, and entertainment. Our mission is the Downtown Brampton BIA promotes and enhances Downtown Brampton through marketing, events, beautification, and to build confidence and engagement with its members and the community at large. And you'll see on the far right-hand side our latest edition of Discover Downtown, which is a publication through our office that we produce on a quarterly basis. Okay, the key corporate goals of our organization include to promote the value and raise awareness of downtown Brampton, to create a cool and trendy vibe for the downtown core, and we're always looking at ways that we can create synergies with the city of Brampton for the overall benefit of the downtown core. This slide just goes over our key service areas, and we're always advocating on behalf of our business membership, and we represent approximately 340 businesses and 120 landlords. We have a beautification team who looks at the public realm as a whole for the downtown core. We have an events and marketing team. We have a safety team, and then we do sponsorship and partnerships in line with our marketing and event strategy. And you'll see over on the far right-hand side, we have 3 staff, 2 full-time, myself and Andrea Magana, who's here today. And we have a part-time administrative coordinator who's not here today. And I do have a few of my board members here in attendance in the audience. I've got Christina Ramasco and Herman Custodio. And we are governed by our board of directors, and their role is to engage with the community at large in the downtown core, to bring ideas, concerns, and various issues back to staff to find solutions. Okay, so this slide goes through some of the 2018 highlights. I'm not going to go through everything on this slide, but I did want to highlight our new strategic plan that we launched last year. We're continually working with the City of Brampton and a number of different departments with regards to various partnerships, from event planning and marketing to the Downtown Reimagined plans and whatnot. And we did spend a lot of time last year with regards to advocacy, communications, and membership engagement with the community with regards to the streetscaping plans for the downtown core. On the far right-hand side, I'd like to just highlight some of the events that we organized and marketing programs. And also wanted to highlight that we're a sponsor of many events in the downtown core, including Fold, Beaux Arts Brampton, Ribbon Roll, Live Art Competition, Thursday Night Concert Series, and the World of Jazz Festival. Okay. So for 2019, we're going to be continuing to work on achieving the goals through our strategic plan. And so for every marketing campaign event plan, we do have specific business plans and action plans. And again, you'll see the list of all the different teams that we manage: beautification, the Downtown Capital Committee, the events and marketing team, and our sponsorship and membership engagement. Okay. So with regards to 2019, some of the programs that we organize through the office include Light Up Our Laneways, a planter rebate program. We just recently did a National Flag Day celebration, which was new to the downtown core. We also do a number of window decorating contests throughout the whole year. And we are advocating to City Council a permanent A-frame program. It's currently a pilot program, so I'd like to make note of that today. And another program that is new to the downtown planning is a program called Light Up Our Laneways, and it is a lighting program for the public and private laneways of the downtown core, and we are working with city staff on identifying currently public laneways that we can do some enhanced lighting to make the downtown look prettier and, most importantly, safer. Okay. With regards to marketing, we're always constantly working on marketing and public relations, literally on a 24/7 basis. We do a lot of market research, and we're always looking at our KPIs for the downtown core to continue to build on the successes and reevaluate things that aren't working so great. We do have a destination campaign through the magazine called Discover Downtown Brampton. And for 2019, we're going to be looking at a retail recruitment strategy. We're going to be continuing to do our social media and digital strategies, and obviously to continue to engage with our business district. Okay, so with regards to marketing partnerships, I did want to highlight the BIA contributes approximately $146,000 towards marketing, and we do receive a grant from the City of Brampton for $40,000 with regards to destination marketing, and that's through the Economic Development Department. And we collaborate with city staff on bringing the awareness of downtown Brampton across the city and the GTA. And we're looking forward to continuing this partnership and grant with the city. And obviously, we're working on some exciting partnerships. We heard this morning from Algoma University and their plans for the downtown core. And we're working with Ryerson, Sheridan. We do have a number of co-op placements in our office with high school students. And so specific deliverables for 2019 will include to continue to promote our downtown as a prime destination and through a number of marketing mediums. Whoops. I did want to talk quickly about our membership engagement for all of the new council here that don't know very much about our downtown business district and existing councillors that have been reelected. There is a welcome package that was distributed earlier today to you. And so for every new business that comes into the downtown core, they receive that package. And there's a specific booklet that outlines what a BIA is, because we do find people do not know everything that we do at the office. We produce a seasonal newsletter. We do bi-weekly emails out to the business community. We're at all the grand openings in the downtown core. We host business mixers, educational workshops. We just launched a coffee talk series with myself, and that's been a lot of fun. We just started that this past month, and it's an opportunity for businesses just to come together and talk about issues. I also wanted to make note, we are hosting our annual general meeting on May the 28th, where we'll be presenting our budget and plans to the general membership at large. And we're always looking at ways that we can create new value to the business community at large. Okay, so my next slide here is on safety, and we do have a downtown Brampton safety team, and the safety team crosses a lot over into the initiatives with regards to beautification, and we're really an advocacy committee at large where we're communicating back any issues or concerns that pertain to the downtown core with regards to safety. I do sit on a downtown stakeholder committee with the region and Peel Regional Police with regards to safety, and so we work collaboratively with the city and region. And again, walkability, lighting are very important to our downtown core, and we have identified the need for a laneway strategy for 2019, and we'll be building a laneway strategy. And we are hosting safety workshops on a regular basis for our business district. So the last slide here is on the BIA levy for 2019, and we have a levy this year of just $392, just shy of $393,000, which for the new councillors here, we are a levied area. We have been designated by the City of Brampton as a special area, so there's an additional tax in the downtown core, and this money, the $392,000 and change, goes back to our office and enables us to execute all of these programs that I talked about. We do receive a lot of support from the city. And we do get some rent relief, which we're very gracious for, as well as the marketing partnership. Additional revenues include sponsorship grants and marketing revenue. So the last slide here is just a detailed overview of our budget. And we do come to council, and I'll be coming back to council in April with regards to our special event service request. And so in this budget, you will see in-kind services from the city as an expense and a revenue line item. And there you go, there's our budget. So do I have any questions?
I think there's a few questions, and let me say
Okay.
that we certainly all appreciate the downtown Brampton BIA does a great job, and appreciate all your efforts. It's very important to the city. We have a vibrant downtown. We talk about that often. First up is Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you through the mayor, and exactly that, just to echo, every penny that we provide the BIA is never enough, because you guys do a fantastic job, especially considering the conditions downtown. Having been a member on the BIA and seeing the great work that you guys do with our downtown has challenges, and I know sometimes communication with the city isn't what it could be, and I know, for example, some of the frustrations we heard dealing with some of the crime downtown, dealing with snow clearing, and now with the revitalization, and I just think that you guys do a fabulous job, and you come here with a very reasonable budget. And I guess my question to you would be, I think it's twofold. One, yesterday's federal budget, there was a little carrot there. Do you know how that money is going to flow, or what opportunity the BIA will be able to apply directly to the BIA grant that the federal government, or is it something that's going to be through the municipalities? I'm not sure, David, would you know something about that?
Through the chair, I think a lot of times with these announcements, the city's still in a position where we're waiting to hear the criteria for the applications for those programs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the position we're in now.
Okay. But I guess my question to you, in terms of with a lot of moving parts, and what you've provided here today, I'm sure if there was, and I'm maybe sitting here advocating with my colleagues, if there was a possibility for other supports that you may require. And I know that you come here with a reasonable budget, but I do know there's been a lot of challenges. So I guess just my question would be, do you think that there are other areas in where you think that you would like to see the city maybe collaborate with the BIA?
Sure. Well, I will say this, having worked for other downtowns, this budget is very small, just for general knowledge. Other BIAs that I've worked for, the budget's double this, so we are a lean machine. However, we do have a lot of support. I will say this sincerely with regards to a number of things that the city assists with, but there's never enough. There's not, obviously we could obviously have a little bit more staff resources, to be completely honest, as we build new programs, that membership engagement and whatnot, but certainly I think there's lots of opportunity for continuing with the current partnerships we had with the city and just leveraging those better, whether that's the Rose Theater or the event planning in the downtown core and even out of the downtown, because the big part of the challenge with Brampton being such a large city is how we can't reach everybody. We want everybody in the city and, local residents across the board to know what we're doing in the downtown, and with a small budget, small marketing, there are challenges in that regard. And certainly with regards to beautification, we have identified, and safety, some issues, and we have identified some potential solutions. And I've had a number of conversations with councillors and the mayor and city staff about some new ideas for 2019, which I'm not going to go into today. So
Yeah, no, certainly. And I guess through the mayor, and I guess I was trying to lead you and set you up, because I do know that and the members of the BIA, that you don't come here with cap in hand. You come here to be our partners, but certainly on what we're spending with other jurisdictions are investing in their BIAs. I think you've highlighted that that we possibly could do better. And just to remind you that today's delegation is not the final opportunity, and I don't know if I'm again raising expectations, but I certainly think that during our final budget deliberations, there might be opportunity for us to look at, because there are challenges, and I guess the federal grant, that would be a big help and see how we leverage that and how the city can help you. But I think there's opportunity here for us to do more, and you talked about the relationship with the city in terms of staff, in terms of communication and so on, and I know that's been a little bit of a challenge, but what I would hope is that if we can articulate specifically, maybe identify
Sure.
areas in which you think that, the city could help us with communication of our events.
Absolutely, yeah.
And let's leverage our communication, because maybe it's not a monetary value, but we're
It's
providing in-kind
exactly, like-
support, because your success is our success.
And thank you, and I do have to say, like, kudos to all of the city staff that we are working with, because
Yes.
they're great support, and I think we all know that we can still do a better job, and leveraging, why not, if there's opportunities there, and it doesn't cost too much to do those things. So I'd be happy to come back, can talk to my executive on this discussion, and perhaps come back before end of the
Yeah, and
delegations.
I think through the chair, one of the challenges, as much as we have a great relationship, I guess the ask sometimes is not so clear, because, staff maintain these conversations with you, and I think the budget's an opportunity for us to really hammer and illustrate what exactly where the BIA would benefit from. Is it, social media support? Is it covering some of the costs for the events that you have coming up?
Exactly, and we will be coming back.
Little areas such as that, so I'm just trying to nudge you
Thank you.
towards there, and
I appreciate that.
just to,
I did want to say, we did create this budget with the construction in mind, and so we intentionally did not raise the BIA levy for our general membership at large, certainly
Yeah.
because we, at that time of the budget planning, we're anticipating business disruption, and we didn't want to, be, another burden with a higher cost from the BIA tax component to
Certainly.
our small businesses, so.
okay. Well,
Thank
that's
you.
something for us to keep in mind, and maybe, before this budget, our final decision, there might be some other opportunity for further dialogue.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Councillor Santos.
Thank you, through you, Chair, and happy to also move the acceptance of your delegation here today. We had Algoma present today.
Yes.
The Cyber Secure Catalyst is coming. Ryerson's going to lead the Innovation Hub. We've got this buzz happening with youthful energy. And I'm wondering, in your 2019 events sort of strategy, if the BIA can look at providing more events and programming to support those new students who are coming in. And just to keep that in consideration as you plan for 2019.
We'd be happy to take that back to the marketing events team, and we do have an exciting partnership with Algoma in the works. We're working with their business students right now on a marketing project, so I'd be happy to share that back to the full team in the next few months. But yes, definitely, most of the events, we have made a lot of changes in the last few years with that in mind, and we always want to make the downtown a fun and cool and trendy place for the young and the young at heart.
Thanks so much, and thanks for coming today.
Okay. Seeing no other questions?
Okay.
Just gain direction from the city clerk.
So, Mr. Chair, so normally when Budget Committee deliberates on a budget such as the BIA, there's a motion to receive the presentation, which is number 1 on the screen, and then a member would move a motion to approve the 2019 current budget submission, as well as in principle approve the 2020 and 2021 current budget submission. Again, as we discussed at the outset of the meeting, all of these, after the vote's taken, are tentative, and there'll be a consolidation of all these recommendations at the end of Budget Committee before it makes its final recommendations to Council.
Councillor Maderos.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Clerk. Just a clarification, if we have an opportunity to amend this when we're receiving all the motions at the end, when we make final decision. So if there's some opportunity for further, if I'd like to move something further or some amendments to this motion, there'll be that opportunity?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, that was in the past
Okay,
practice to
great.
ensure that everything adds up, and working with finance, depending on the amendments that are moved over the course of however long it takes for Budget Committee to finish its
Thank you, City
business.
Clerk. Thank you very much.
Okay, do we have a mover? Councillor Santos, seconded by Councillor Medeiros. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Next up, we have the Brampton Public Library. Presenting is Rebecca Raven, Chief Executive Officer, and J. Paul Massey Singh, Board Chair.
All set? All set. All right. Well, first, really like this new room. This is awesome. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, staff, for making the time for us today. As mentioned, it's Rebecca Raven and myself, J. Paul Massey Singh, here on behalf of Brampton Public Library. We know the majority of councilors have had the opportunity to take tours of our branches recently, and there's actually a good number on this group right now who's served on our board at one point or another or presently. So we know there's a lot of library knowledge in the room right now, and what we're going to do is spend a little bit of time giving a little bit of a background, but really try to focus on 2 or 3 key aspects of our presentation. So we know you've had an opportunity to review our package and are familiar with who we are and what it is that we are looking to do, but really what I want to touch on is some key takeaways. And we continue to be a key resource, well used and enjoyed in the community. Last year, we had over 2 million visits to our branches. We had over 4 million items borrowed. We had over 150,000 individuals participate in programs across a wide range of subject matters, ages, and even languages, which, as we know in a community like ours, with its diverse and growing population, is a challenge, but it's also a great opportunity to create some real value for the community. Sorry, I'm just working this thing here. We continue to be the most efficient urban public library in Canada, with oftentimes half the resources of the industry benchmarks and some of the key metrics, including space and operating expenditures. When we compare that to other libraries in the GTHA, in per capita spend, the contrast is quite stark. And when we look here at library systems such as Vaughan, Richmond Hill, Hamilton, and Mississauga, we can see where Brampton rates right now, not in terms of our impact, but in terms of the resources that we have to work with. And you may think when you look at this that this must mean that Brampton somehow produces less than these other library systems, or that this is a sad story. And what we're really happy to tell you today is we want you to understand the circumstances in which we operate, but want to stress that this is not a sad story at all. On the contrary, we're very proud of what we achieve here in Brampton. In 2018 alone, we had approximately 1,000 residents who use Brampton Library branches on a daily basis. We worked with our partners at CUPE to extend hours with no budget increase across the branches, which means each of our branches is now open 7 days a week with extended hours on weekends. This is virtually unheard of, not just in the GTA, but across Canada. We are one of the most accessible library systems that there exists in this country. In addition to our collections and spaces, our programs are in great demand. We participate in some great benchmarking, including some pilot programs, which allow us to grab some great statistics about the impacts we're making. Last year, in one of our programs, in our STEM program, for instance, 94% of parents felt that their children were not just entertained or had a good time or had fun in our programs, but left those programs feeling more knowledgeable. What we're doing is laying the foundation for lifelong learning within our community in our day-to-day programming. In 2019, we're continuing to be ambitious. We're opening a new branch in the Southwest Quadrant. We're expanding our service to include a Go Van, which will bring, in addition to books, 3D printing, coding resources, and other resources to aspects of our community, areas of our community, and to individuals who wouldn't be able to easily access branches and have access to those resources. And we're developing a master plan, a facility master plan, to ensure that the ongoing growth of Brampton Library is not only in line with the needs of the community as it continues to grow, but in line with the strategic direction of the city, as well as participating in any of the discussions as it pertains to the investments that we know are coming into the downtown of Brampton. So, we're very excited and proud of what we achieve. We're very committed to continuing to meet the needs of the community and setting a bar for excellence, not just within our industry, but what we think is for a community resource as a whole. And what we're looking for now is your support to help us achieve even more and continue to grow. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Rebecca to talk about some of the details of our ask.
So As Jay Paul's indicated, I think we are a very good news story for the city of Brampton. But what does that really mean in terms of budget? And we've presented what we think is a very reasonable budget. In fact, we've held our 2018 expenditures steady for 2019. And the increase you'll see in our ask, a very modest 4.5% approximately, is to support the opening of the new Southwest branch on Mississauga Road. So that's the leasing costs and staffing for Southwest. And I'm happy to go through any of the details of these asks. Our capital budget again. This is an interesting thing, again, for new members of council and even for our new board members. The collection development budget is a capital request. It's actually an operating cost for us, but because we need those capital funds to purchase physical items to support the use of the library, you see it here as an annual capital request. So that's the largest portion of our capital ask there. And really, that's it. We just wanted to wrap up with an opportunity to show you a picture. This is one of the innovative programs that is so popular, we actually can't keep up with the demand. This is one of our staff members presenting completion certificates in an introduction to computer classes that are offered at many of our locations in Hindi, Punjabi, and Urdu. And the courses are actually so popular that when some of the participants finish the 4 weeks, they sign up again for the next 4 weeks. And we've actually had to ask them to please if they can take a break in between so we can squeeze some new people in. But that was just a good news story to end our presentation with, and we're happy to answer any questions or provide any further information.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation, and I think everyone shares your enthusiasm for the good work that's happening with Brampton Library. Just out of curiosity, how many other communities have a van that makes it, actually takes books out to the community? It has to be pretty unique.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's rather unique because of the nature of the van. So it's not a traditional bookmobile. There are a couple of other innovative library systems in Canada, Edmonton being a pillar that we always look towards. So Edmonton does have vans that have some of the electronic 21st century digital literacy stuff, but we're definitely on the bleeding edge of this.
Yeah, well, it's great that Brampton's ahead of the curve there. Absolutely. We have a few questions here. Councillor Willens, Singh, and Williams. We'll go with Councillor Willens first. Oops, put yourself back there. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much, Jay Paul, and thank you, Rebecca, for coming in. For someone that used to get chased out of a library downtown when I was a young lad, and going on the library board, my first term of council, it's amazing what you've done with what little you got. I think on our term, on Councillor Peleshi's, my term on there, I think we saw the Springdale Library open. We saw the renovations to Jacuzzi Library. When we started, there was a mobile, portable library at Credit View Fields, and Credit View Road. Now you've got the library at Mount Pleasant, renovations to Cyril Clark Library. So you've done quite a bit. Very supportive of the library. Thank you very much for all your hard work. You've got a fantastic board. Fortunately, I'm not on the committee this year, but you do have two good councillors in Councillor Williams and Councillor Singh as well. Councillor Singh coming from the school board and Councillor Williams with her work in the community. So congratulations, and you got my support 100%.
Thank you.
Councillor Singh.
So Councillor Williams, you made me blush a little. I just wanted to go back. You were saying that some of the capitals would be operating capital budget. Yeah, right here. Can you just go through that? I missed that.
Sure,
yeah.
you bet. Through the chair. So the first line is for our automation software and hardware upgrades. We are a critical destination for many members of the community who rely on us for high quality, high speed, both Wi-Fi and computer access. So it's important for us that we keep the equipment and our network upgraded, so that $50,000 is an annual request. The 2020 request is a complete overhaul of our self-automation system. So part of the reason that we can be so lean is because we have such great public support for self-serve technology. So in 2020, we hope to completely refresh that technology and provide a pay at the kiosk rather than customers having to come to the front desk and make that payment. So that's what you see in 2020. The collection development is really, that's the the heart and soul of what we need to buy. This is just the physical material, and you'll know that the demands are increasing all of the time, not just on the physical side, which is where you see capital, but also in the online and electronic resources, and that's where you see, that's in our operating budget. So in that way, financial support for the collections is split into the two different budgets. It's a modest request. It's also governed by the fact that we have only 7 physical locations for a city of this size. We'd like to spend more money on collections, but we'd like to have more space to put those collections as well. So that's the reality of that. The $50,000 you see in grant identification is a pilot that we have been funded for by the city to bring a fund development manager on board. And that's some seed money to get things going in terms of a direct mail campaign. What we're hoping, we've got some ambitious plans. I think it's premature to get too deep into those weeds right now. The individual has not yet started, so we've got to get some plans in place, but that's the funding to help support that fund development, the startup of the fund development.
Okay. Just one quick question, because it just happened today. Algoma University came in and they presented, and they were saying one of the reasons that attracts them here is we can use the local libraries, we can use the restaurants, we can use the gym, which is the YMCA. So they're looking to expand it to about 500 students this year. Has there been any discussions of how they're going to connect in with the library, particularly since Four Corners, it's just across the street, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, absolutely. Through you, Mr. Chair. We have been in discussion with Algoma, with Sheridan, and with the Chang School. So we are delighted to partner with all our downtown and educational organizations. The Chang School will be offering one of their continuing ed programs at the Four Corners Auditorium through May and June. We haven't sat down to discuss the specifics of what's going to happen with Algoma, but those conversations are being facilitated by city staff. And we've got some very exciting ideas in the works with Sheridan that I'm looking forward to sharing with council when we can put some more meat on those bones.
And that's fair, and we're just, I think as council, just enthusiastic that those conversations are happening. So thank you.
Councillor Williams?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. I love the library. And if you could go back to the slides of the operating budget per capita, and I so appreciate how lean the Brampton Library is. However, I think this chart is pretty shocking. Would have been really great if you put the population beside these cities. I did some looking, and Vaughan has a population of over 300,000. Richmond Hill, 195,000, and Hamilton, 536,000. Mississauga, 721,000, and then you have Brampton, which is over 600,000, and we are extremely underfunded for the library to serve our city. And so I just wonder, we are now, I think many of us at council have heard from our young people looking for some type of space that they can call their own, and that they can really just be creative. And also the conversation around 24-hour study halls, which is extremely needed in our city for all of our students that are away and here present. What would you need to have in order to accommodate those asks that are coming in?
Go first. I'll go. I have ideas.
So we have begun, and we do offer at a handful of our locations, 3 of our locations, after-hour study halls. So our libraries are open till 9 o'clock Monday to Thursday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're open until 6. And on those evenings, our unionized staff go home, and we bring in a security guard. So the facilities are open, the Wi-Fi is available, and those after-hour study halls at Chinguacousy, Gore Meadows, and Springdale Branch are incredibly popular. On Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, we fill those rooms, and it's remarkable to be there, to see those students. And they're not just, to your point, Councillor, it's not just young people. It's also people who are working on bringing their accreditation up to meet Canadian accreditation standards. We see a lot of that, study groups that come together to meet. So right now, that's a program that's offered for 3 or 4 hours at 3 locations. We'd be very happy to extend that program. We know that our South Fletchers branch, being adjacent to Sheridan, and also Sheridan students can access their secure network through any of our Wi-Fi, any of our locations. So being adjacent to that campus, and if anybody has ever visited that campus, it is throbbing. It's so busy with students. The library is completely packed and overrun, much like ours. But after hours, we could facilitate some of that overload. So it would be a very reasonable request to bring in additional security to keep some of those spaces open.
The only other piece I'd add to that is I think we've demonstrated we've had a tremendous amount of success in facilities where we're co-located with the city. My apologies, through the chair. And I think there's an opportunity if we wanted to extend. It so happens that many of the facilities where there's the most demand for after-hour study also happen to be locations where we do share we share space with recreation facilities that the city operates as well. So there is the opportunity not just from a programming perspective within the library itself, but to extend our envelope into the broader resource center, or to look for opportunities perhaps where there may be underutilized resources in those spaces that perhaps the library could provide programming to help facilitate some of these challenges.
Okay, so it sounds like there's things that we can be looking at doing. So I'm hoping that moving forward, we're really taking those asks into consideration for the budget. I don't know what we can do for this year, but for future something. Don't look at me like that, Joe. I was also going to ask about sponsorships. Does the library bring in any revenue for sponsorships to cover some of these asks?
Right now, those types of relationships happen primarily through partnership, not sponsorship, with some of the other institutions in the community, Sheridan being a great example of that. Part of what we'll be exploring through the investment we're making in fund development this coming year is how we might be able to start leveraging some of those opportunities, both through the community broadly, but even through other corporate partners that might be able to facilitate some of the programming that we want to provide.
Okay, so that'd be great if we could start looking at some sponsorships and seeing how we can bring ourselves up to par in some way. And then my final question is, our residents benefit socially, developmentally, and spiritually, and even with their mental health. And I just wonder, with some of the early years programs, does the region provide, or is there room for the region to provide funding for some of those programs?
Speak to our new library branch.
Yeah.
Absolutely, through the chair. I'm very excited to let you know, so the Southwest branch, which will be opening in summer of this year, all construction going well, will be in partnership with the region and the Ontario Early Years Centre. So they have provided not only capital funding for the fit up and equipment of that space, but ongoing partnership in terms of staffing. We've got minimal staffing, truth be told, for the hours for that location, but working in partnership with the early on centers, we will be able to offer some additional hours because our staff will be able to offset and support each other in that way.
Oh, that's really great to hear. Well, thank you. I have no further questions. I just want to make sure that we can be really lean, but sometimes we can be lean and then we're not really, fulfilling some of the asks that the community is looking for, and our residents really do benefit significantly from the library. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Pelleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to tell you, this is my favorite slide. It comes before us every year, and it clearly shows that we have the best library system in the world. And yeah, I'm going to say world. We're the center of the universe for libraries. And I have to tell you, J. Paul and Rebecca, you guys, since you've been on Come to the Library, have been outstanding. Like, you really have been fantastic. J. Paul, your dedication to the library, Brampton Library System, with, going to Waterloo areas and all over the place to, and speaking at events, and it's fantastic.
Thank you.
And there's no benefit other than, you're making our system great for Bramptonians, and I thank you personally for doing that.
Thank you, Councillor.
And Rebecca, you know, you coming on board was a huge compliment to our Brampton library system, and thank you as well. Every year we talk about this slide and the potential for putting more money in and increasing the service. And you know what? Maybe it's time we actually do what we say we're going to do. And so I'm fully prepared, hopefully Councillor Williams is with me on this, that we move a motion to request that staff work with the library to expand the service into other branches for these after hours, particularly with South Fletcher's, that being maybe one of the higher priorities, and to come back to council for the 2020 budget for what that's going to be. But actually have that report, have staff do that work with the Brampton Library, and start expanding and start looking at our service to make it even better than what it is. Did you get all that, Peter? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Motion's been,
Can we get that up on the screen? Or read out?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so the first 5 motions are to approve the 2019 current capital budgets and approve in principle the 2020 and 2021 current capital budgets. And then the further motion from Councillor Alessi is requesting staff to work with the Brampton Library Board to explore opportunities to expand hours of service at its facilities and report back to council for the 2020 budget deliberations.
And Councillor Plush, you putting this all together as one motion? Yeah. Okay. Seconded by Councillor Williams?
It's all libraries?
Yeah. All libraries. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time, and before we leave, I appreciate the generous amount of time. I just want to acknowledge all the hard work that the senior team at the library put in to put our budget presentation together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I get a motion from council to receive the correspondence? Moved by Councillor Fortini, seconded by Councillor Medeiros.
So it'll be the 5 pieces of correspondence.
The 5 pieces of correspondence, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, 9.5. All those in favor? Motion carries. Now, with the indulgence of council, since we're a little bit ahead of schedule, I'm told by the clerk we could handle the in-camera item right now. If we go upstairs, reconvene in 5 minutes upstairs. No more delegations.
No, there's public delegations tonight. We'll maybe reconvene at 7, so we can do that.
so we're gonna be done this portion, we're gonna reconvene at 7.
Yes, the budget deliberations will reconvene at 7. And I would note that at 7 o'clock, Councilor Vicente will be chairing the budget deliberations. Brampton CARP has their own budget town hall tonight that I am speaking at and then coming back. So the first part of the budget deliberations at 7 will be chaired by Councilor Vicente. Thank you, Councilor Vicente, for being voluntold to take on that position, and we'll see council members upstairs.
Do what?
Okay. So in the continuing interest of transparency and open government, I will report in public session any outcomes from today's closed session business. As a result of our closed session today, I wish to report that an item was considered in closed session and a direction was given to staff to introduce a public motion. There is no public motion. So let's have a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Councillor Bowman. All those in favor? That motion is carried. See you at 7.